Sometimes, the spiritual journey of the chosen is solitary. It is not by choice, but by the strength of inner awakening. Along this path, they begin to realize that most human connections no longer make sense. This happens because, when connecting with something deeper, superficial relationships and social games lose their value. If you feel this way, you may be starting to understand what it truly means to walk alone, but in tune with your divine purpose. The chosen do not avoid people or reject relationships out of whim. Rather, they simply no longer need the patterns that once connected them to the world. They are on a journey of self-discovery, aligning with their inner truth, and often, this quest requires distancing from external distractions. Over time, relationships that no longer contribute to spiritual growth begin to fade away. This video will explain 7 reasons why the chosen walk alone, not as a burden, but as a choice that brings them closer to their true essence and purpose. If you have found yourself on this path, or have wondered why you feel disconnected from everything and everyone, this video is for you. Before proceeding, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like so that we can continue to bring more content that will help you understand your role in the world. The loss of superficial connections. As spiritual awakening occurs, the chosen begin to realize something fundamental. Many of the relationships they maintained before were based on superficial interests. Connections that once seemed important, such as those built around gossip, empty conversations, or even the pursuit of mutual validation, start to lose their meaning. These types of relationships no longer hold the same value, and the reason is simple. When awakening to a deeper truth, you begin to see that life is much more than these shallow interactions. Friendships that were sustained by minor distractions, like the latest gossip or the need for approval, begin to show themselves as weak and insubstantial. The people you connected with often seek nothing more than temporary comfort, and this creates an invisible distance between you and them. When you start to perceive the true essence of life, you can no longer engage in conversations that lack depth or in interactions that do not lead to growth or evolution. The distractions that once surrounded you, such as constantly seeking validation, begin to lose their importance, and you realize that what truly matters exists on another level. This awakening creates a sense of isolation, but it is an isolation that, in fact, strengthens you. You realize that you are distancing yourself from people who are not willing to look beyond the superficialities of life. It is not that these people are bad or wrong, but simply that they are not on the same path of self-discovery and spiritual growth as you are. And this is something natural. When you begin to align with a purer energy focused on what is essential, your connections start to reflect this new state of consciousness. As they walk alone, the chosen begin to connect with themselves in a way they have never experienced before. They discover an inner strength, a power that comes from within and does not depend on being accepted or validated by others. This new state of consciousness requires that you distance yourself from connections that are not authentic. And by doing so, you prepare yourself to find relationships more aligned with your spiritual purpose. And as you distance yourself from these superficial connections, you begin to realize how valuable authentic relationships become. It is not about withdrawing from the world, but rather seeking what is truly important. Spiritual awakening teaches you to value the connections that have substance, those that contribute to your growth, learning, and evolution as a human being. As challenging as it may be, the process of losing these superficial connections is essential for those awakening to the truth of who they are. By leaving behind what no longer serves you, you begin to make room for what truly matters, for the relationships that propel you to be the best version of yourself. And it is this change, this distancing from distractions that will guide you to the purest and most meaningful connections that the universe has to offer. The truth that distances. As spiritual awakening progresses, the chosen become unafraid to embrace the truth. They begin to realize that universal truth, the one that transcends limited and superficial beliefs, is the only one that truly matters. However, this truth, as liberating as it may be, often puts them at odds with those around them, especially with those who are still trapped in limiting patterns and beliefs. This creates a natural distancing, which is not a forced separation, but a consequence of an inner evolution process. When you start living in alignment with universal truth, your view of life changes completely. The things that once mattered, such as the pursuit of status, power, or external approval, lose all value. For the chosen, these superficial conversations about who has more or who is on top in life simply cease to make sense. The need to validate oneself through material things or social recognition disappears, giving way to a deeper focus on purpose and inner truth. This shift in focus generates a distancing, not only in relationships, but also in everyday conversations. What used to be a common topic, such as gossip or discussions about status, now no longer aligns with the energy of the chosen. They are on a different level of perception, and what once seemed interesting or important no longer attracts them. The energy they emit, now more focused on truth and spiritual growth, no longer resonates with those who are still trapped in the illusions of the material world. For those who have not gone through this awakening process, the changes in the chosen can be difficult to understand. The distancing is not a rejection, but a natural consequence of a path that is becoming more conscious, more aligned with divine purpose. The people around them often cannot grasp why the chosen have changed so much, but this happens because their focus is no longer on conventional values. This truth that the chosen embrace can create a temporary sense of loneliness, but it is important to understand that this distancing is necessary for spiritual growth. Connections and friendships based on superficial and selfish values can no longer be maintained, because the spirit of the chosen is on a deeper journey, where universal truths carry more weight. When you live according to your purest truth, you begin to realize that relationships based on ego and false illusions simply have no place in your life anymore. The truth that distances is not a loss, but a preparation for something more meaningful. True connection is no longer in the superficial, but in the souls that share the same quest for truth and spiritual evolution. This journey may seem lonely at times, but it is preparing you to live in deeper harmony with the universe, with divine purpose, and ultimately, with yourself. The pursuit of freedom, not companionship. Many people throughout life seek companionship, not because they truly desire to share something profound, but because they fear the inner void. The discomfort of loneliness, the fear of being alone with their own thoughts, leads many to engage in relationships that do not bring real growth or connection. But the chosen have already gone through this phase. They have understood that true freedom is not in having someone by their side, but in being at peace with themselves, in embracing solitude as an opportunity for self-discovery and inner freedom. For the chosen, being alone is not synonymous with sadness or lack of something. On the contrary, solitude becomes a space of profound peace. It is a place where they can finally connect with their inner self, without the distractions of the external world. They do not need companionship to feel complete, because they have already found themselves within. Instead of seeking distractions or superficial relationships to fill the void, the chosen turn inward and discover themselves more each day. Solitude for them is a conscious choice. It is not imposed by circumstances, but a way of living authentically. They know that to hear their inner voice and follow divine guidance, it is necessary to be in silence. It is in the silence of solitude that clarity arrives. The answers to internal doubts and guidance for the future do not come when we are busy with the external world, but when we give space to listen to our soul. When someone walks through life constantly seeking companionship, it is because they are still trying to find something outside of themselves to fill what is missing inside. But the chosen know that true connection begins with themselves. They have already realized that there is no need to look outside to fill a void that can only be filled internally. The journey of self-discovery and spiritual connection requires time alone, away from the distractions of daily life, where the search for external acceptance no longer holds value. It is not about rejecting human contact, but about understanding that to be truly free, one must be in tune with oneself. By accepting solitude, the chosen learn to detach from external needs and connect with something much greater than any superficial relationship. They know that to walk in the truth and purpose that God has for them, they must first break free from the shackles of the material world and other people's expectations. For the chosen, solitude is not a punishment, but an essential tool for spiritual freedom. It offers the clarity necessary to pursue the journey with confidence and alignment, without relying on the opinions or validations of others. By embracing solitude, they become more complete, more authentic, and better prepared to fulfill their life mission with purpose and inner peace. The detachment from social expectations. Throughout the spiritual journey, the chosen begin to realize that many of the goals and desires they once pursued were based on external expectations. The constant search for validation and approval from others ceases to be a priority. The desire to fit into social conventions and meet what society expects loses all its value. What was once important, such as being accepted, recognized, or admired by others, begins to be seen as something fleeting, something that does not bring true peace or satisfaction. This detachment from social expectations does not happen overnight, but is a natural consequence of spiritual awakening. When you start connecting with your inner truth and living according to your purpose, external pressures lose their strength. You begin to understand that true fulfillment comes from within, from following your own soul, and not from aligning with the standards imposed by others. The opinions and judgments of society no longer carry the same weight, and you feel the freedom to be who you really are, without needing to adjust or conform. This process can be challenging, especially because we live in a society where acceptance and social recognition are often seen as signs of success. Many people worry about meeting the expectations of others to feel important, but the chosen understand that this search for external acceptance is empty. It is not that they become indifferent to the people around them, but rather that they no longer allow themselves to be influenced by the desires and opinions of others. They have learned to live according to their own truth, without depending on external validation. To those who are still trapped by social standards, the chosen may seem distant or even arrogant. This happens because their attitude does not fit within traditional norms of behavior, which are often based on the relentless quest for approval. However, the truth is that they are simply following the path of authenticity, and this authenticity often conflicts with the expectations of a society that values conformity over individuality. Over time, this detachment also gives them the ability to attract people and situations more aligned with their true essence. Relationships that were once based on status or approval are now replaced by more genuine connections, where the focus is on mutual growth, understanding, and support. This new alignment with what is true and essential attracts new opportunities that are in tune with their divine mission. Thus, the detachment from social expectations is not a rejection of people, but rather a return to true freedom. The chosen do not seek approval, as they know they are already approved and guided by something greater. They no longer conform to external expectations, as they have found their true strength within themselves. And by doing so, they become more authentic, more connected with their mission, and more prepared to live a life aligned with universal truth. Love without expectations. The chosen, throughout their spiritual journey, learn to experience love in a unique and transformative way. Although they feel a deep and sincere love for those around them, this love is not conditional. They love without expecting anything in return, which can be difficult for those who are still immersed in the cycle of emotional dependency to understand. In a world where relationships often rely on the exchange of favors or expectations of something in return, the love of the chosen breaks these barriers, offering a genuine love that flows freely without the need for demands or conditions. This type of love is radically different from the relationships many people are used to experiencing. In the common cycle of emotional dependency, people often seek from others something that fills an internal void. Affection, validation, attention, or support. For many, love is something that needs to be exchanged, with the expectation that by giving something, they will receive something back. But the chosen, as they awaken spiritually, begin to realize that love should not be something tied to the return of another person or to the fulfillment of their own emotional needs. They learn to love unconditionally, which means offering the best of themselves without the expectation of receiving something in return. This type of love goes beyond superficial exchange. It is based on the understanding that, by loving unconditionally, they are connecting with the essence of the other, not with what the other can give, but with who the other truly is. This love, contrary to what many believe, does not weaken the chosen. On the contrary, it strengthens and elevates them, for it is a love that is not tied to the ego or the need to obtain something for oneself. This type of love can be difficult to understand for those who are still caught in the cycle of emotional dependency. When someone is still seeking love to fill their own deficiencies, the idea of loving without expecting anything in return may seem strange or even irrational. But for the chosen, this love is a liberation. They know that by loving unconditionally, they are not only helping the other to feel loved, but they are also connecting with something deeper within themselves. Love without expectations allows the chosen to live more fully and authentically, without the weight of demands or disappointment. They become lighter, as there is no longer concern about what the other can or cannot offer. Instead, they share the love that is already in their hearts, knowing that genuine love is not about exchange or need, but about the capacity to give without expecting anything in return. This love flows naturally, and in doing so, the chosen connect with what is divine and eternal within themselves. Love without expectations is not just a way to relate to others, but a way to relate to oneself. It teaches us that to truly love, we need to free ourselves from the expectations and needs that shape our relationships. This love is pure, true, and transformative, and it is what guides the chosen on their journey, allowing them to connect with the world in a deeper and more meaningful way. The freedom of the mind and inner silence. The chosen, throughout their journey of self-discovery and spiritual evolution, achieve a state of mental freedom that allows them to live without the shackles of social conditioning. They no longer feel trapped by the norms and expectations of the world around them. On the contrary, they free themselves from all external pressures, such as the need to please, to conform to standards, or to engage in conversations that lack substance. This state of freedom is one of the greatest achievements of spiritual awakening. The mental freedom of the chosen distances them from empty conversations, gossip, and discussions about status, which often dominate the daily lives of most people. They know that these conversations are merely a distraction that prevents them from focusing on what truly matters. Instead of getting lost in these superficial matters, the chosen prefer to keep their minds focused on what is deep, true, and spiritual. They seek meaningful conversations that bring growth, learning, and evolution. The issues of the material world, such as social status or material possessions, no longer hold the power to capture their attention. The minds of the chosen are at peace, and this inner peace is reflected in their solitude. However, this solitude is not forced, nor is it a sign of despair. On the contrary, it is a conscious choice. The chosen choose to distance themselves from everything that no longer serves their higher purpose. They know that in order to maintain inner peace and alignment with their deepest self, it is necessary to distance themselves from distractions and energies that are no longer compatible with their journey. This inner silence provides a sense of calm and clarity, allowing the chosen to connect with their divine essence and with spiritual guidance. They no longer seek validation or companionship to fill the void, because they know that true peace comes from within. This mental freedom is not a way of rejecting the world, but a way of living according to the truth they have found within themselves. The solitude that accompanies this state of mental freedom is, therefore, a conscious choice to make space for self-knowledge, reflection, and connection with the divine. By doing so, the chosen are able to hear their inner voice more clearly and follow spiritual guidance in a more assertive and aligned manner. This silence is, in fact, one of the greatest tools for growth, allowing them to find the answers they are seeking and connect with their life mission in a deeper and more meaningful way. Solitude as a tool for growth. For the chosen, solitude is not a burden, but an essential tool for growth. Over time, they have learned to value these moments of solitude, as they know that often it is in solitude that the greatest opportunities for introspection and personal evolution arise. In the hectic world full of distractions in which we live, many seek the company of others to avoid silence. But the chosen understand that true progress happens when we are willing to be alone with ourselves. Solitude offers the chance to reconnect with the inner essence, to take a pause and reflect deeply on life, our choices, and our path. For the chosen, this is the moment to hear the inner voice and align with divine purpose. The quest for depth and self-knowledge becomes more important than the need to be constantly surrounded by others or to distract oneself with the noise of the world. In solitude, they find the clarity needed to move forward on their spiritual journey, away from external influences. Solitude therefore becomes a powerful ally. It is not a sign of rejection of the world, but a conscious choice to seek growth. The more the chosen allow themselves to experience this space of introspection, the stronger and more connected they become with their own essence and with the divine. This growth process empowers them to live more aligned with their true purpose, leading them to a deeper understanding of their role in the universe. The solitude of the chosen is undoubtedly one of the deepest parts of their spiritual journey. By choosing to be alone, they are not escaping life, but actually connecting with the truest essence of who they are. In this space of solitude, they find clarity, balance, and a stronger connection with the divine. Instead of seeking external distractions, they turn inward, and in doing so they become stronger and more aware of their purpose. This solitude prepares them for the challenges that lie ahead and helps them remain steadfast on the path they have chosen to follow. By delving into their inner selves, the chosen find the answers that the external world cannot provide. They understand that true strength comes from within, and that it is in this silence that true transformation occurs. Now, I would like to know from you, do you also see solitude as a tool for growth in your journey? How has solitude impacted your personal evolution? Comment below and share your experiences. We are together on this path of self-knowledge and transformation. Remember to subscribe to the channel for more content like this.